Watching people applaud centralized moves behind the scenes is repulsive in so many different ways. What's going on, you guys? Jay here, and welcome back to the channel. What I'm talking about is the efforts made to prevent the delisting with USTC. Yeah, it worked out great for us this time, but there's been so many other instances where it hasn't worked out well for us. In fact, it would simply be the shoe was on the other foot. And if this was a case where the shoe was on the other foot, everybody would be in an uproar. Everybody would be very angry, be very upset that this centralized move was made behind the scenes. So again, although this is really good, you guys are applauding it. There's a lot of people feeling very positive about it. Essentially, it was a centralized move. It could have gone really bad. It might not have worked out. We could have still seen the delisting rollout. There's so many different things that I could explain to you guys in regards to these centralized moves being negative, even though they're positive. I'm not wanting to put a negative mindset out there, but again, we should be very wary of any of these centralized moves that happen behind the scenes because it's coming from someone who's historically made very, very bad decisions behind the scenes. And one of those was to actually introduce and foster in a custom API for USTC. So again, if we were to secure a very large burn with USTC, there would be people who would argue the fact that there was a centralized move made to change, the custom API that represents the total amount of USTC coins that are actually there in the total circulating supply. But what I want to do is really go over a point that we were going over in the previous video that a lot of people begin to push USTC back towards the idea of becoming a stable coin, an algorithmic stable coin, or something similar along the lines of being a stable coin. However they're going to back it, however they're going to restore it, it's going to be pushed towards a stable asset. And this is very dangerous. It's not dangerous just in the European Union. In the United States, it's dangerous overall. Crypto is moving into a different regulatory landscape, and a lot of people are simply not seeing all of the warning lights on the horizon. What we're actually seeing is rules and regulations come in to remove the current stablecoin players in the space. Essentially, this is a war on stablecoins, and the only way to remove the bricks in the wall is to completely smash them into a million different pieces, and they're going to do that through regulation. And what they're going to begin to do is actually fill those gaps as they roll out. And Fidelity is one of the most recent players in the space to come out with the idea of launching its own stablecoin, because again, these people are already regulated. They're in the retail, the financial space, so to speak. There's so many benefits to these bigger players that are already part of the functioning United States ecosystem and even the global financial ecosystem itself. So although, right, a lot of people are going to trump up all this nonsense that, yeah, USTC isn't getting delisted now, the risk is gone, maybe we should focus on repegging USTC. And that's what this EUTC repeg white paper is all about, driving us back towards the idea of becoming a stable asset. But what they're completely missing out, they're completely ignoring, is the Genius Stablecoin Act and then also MiCA regulations as well. And one of the key points inside the Genius Act is licensing procedures. Stablecoin issuers must follow formal steps to obtain a license before operating, ensuring they meet minimum standards for compliance, reserve backing, and consumer protection. This will just lead us into a path where we need a centralized body, and we'll have to hand over control of USTC to them at some point if we want to become a regulated asset. But again, if big players in the space like DAI, which is a decentralized asset that's been around for God knows how many years, is being removed through these regulations, if we're going to be seeing some of the bigger players in the space being delisted and regulated out of the space, so to speak, you're looking at Tether. All of these bigger players are not able to keep their positions. How are we a decentralized community, right, that is essentially just trying to repair a system that's broken, and it cannot be restored to its former order because the regulatory landscapes are changing? And when it comes down to regulations in the European Union, it's really no better for us when we're trying to launch a stablecoin asset. They're quite clear on authorized payments and requirements and everything that you need to have when it comes down to being an issuer of a stablecoin. And this is ARTs, EMT. You've got to obtain prior authorization from a competent national authority in an EU member state before offering any kind of stable asset. You've got to be established as a legal entity in the EU. You've got to have your white paper. It needs to be detailed. You've got to disclose absolutely everything. And it can only be issued and authorized by credit institutions, electronic money institutions, being EMIs, and they've got to be supervised by an authoritative government, and everything has got to be T's crossed and I's dotted. This is not leaving any room for stable coins coming from homegrown communities or even new cryptocurrency projects, layer twos, whatever. It is being completely regulated out at this point. And this is why I'm sort of putting this content out there and saying to people we shouldn't spend 2025 walking towards the idea of USTC being restored to a stable asset. We managed to avoid the delisting by reclassifying to anything but a stable asset. And there's a lot of people out there now that are running with the joke like, oh, well, we're a meme coin now. And it's like, you can't win with these people. But it's, from my point of view, it's very dangerous. And I know I say this with a lot of stuff, and I'm always being very outright. I'm always warning you guys of possible pitfalls that might be on the horizon, but this definitely is something that would eventually, if we were to follow it, it would lead us to a path where, like I said previously, we have to hand over control of USTC. It becomes a centralized asset. The whole original idea and concept around UST before the DPEG was that it was this decentralized algorithmic stablecoin where everybody in the cosmos flocked to. Everybody held all of their assets in stable value. It allowed for a lot more building inside the Cosmos ecosystem. And what a lot of these people don't understand is USTC exists inside the Cosmos. We've got Axelar, which provide that option for a wrapped asset. So essentially, we have stable assets available, but people choose to ignore it. People choose to follow this path, right, where essentially the prize to gain is USTC and being the controlling body behind it. When you just put a very basic Google search for new stablecoin launches, there are so many, it's hard to keep up with them. Trump's just launched USD1 because he's part of that retail and financial landscape. Fidelity launching one. We've got XRP, which has been working on RLUSD for a significant amount of time, and they've been at the forefront of this changing regulatory landscape. The time for bigger players is now, and if LUNC follows this route, it's not going to be good for us. We're going to end up at the same point we were at previously, and each and every one that is trying to essentially gain control of USTC is doing it for self-gain. They're not doing it because it's going to benefit the ecosystem, because you better believe if you give control to them, they're simply going to say, well, what do we even owe you at this point? What are we obliged to these people? Of course not. They've just handed us control of this thing. And I think about Hexagon. I think about the $120,000 the chain paid them for wallet infrastructure, wallet technology to be built for the ecosystem for the chain. And all they did was build the technology, take the money, use and utilize it, and then warp and whip around all of the wording of what they had originally said. And essentially, we just paid for them to build out their own infrastructure. And this is the kind of route we'd be going down, because it always ends up, we've got this great USTC repeg plan. We need a development team. We're going to need X amount of money. And when has any money thrown at USTC ever brought us a repeg? The original repeggers asked for money to simply just look in to the repeg itself, and again playing on words, warping them and whipping them about to best suit the proposer's needs or the direction they want to take things in. It's a very, very horrible situation, and I really just think our primary focus should just be burning USTC at this point. We should spend 2025 building out the technology, building out infrastructure, building stuff, building tools for our community to actually use and utilize so they can develop something on Terra Classic, and then focus on burning all of these different assets that remain outside of the chain scope right now that can be attacked through governance. I still reside on the fact that we should go in and burn the 1.86 billion LFG reserve funds. And I'm very tempted to re-propose the original proposal to burn them, because as you all know here on the channel, if I'd voted yes, if I knew that I was actually allowed to vote on my own proposal, which is contrary to to what All Noted originally said and originally punished me for, then the proposal itself would have passed. And when you look at the proposal to freeze the assets, some validators that voted yes to burn them actually voted no to freeze them. So it was quite clear they wanted to see the assets burn, not see those assets frozen. So there could be a future situation where these assets could go through and they could be burned through governance. But yeah, that's all I've really got for you guys for now. I just wanted to give you my opinion on how I'm feeling about USTC. I've tried to support repeg efforts where and whenever I can, and we're now just at a time where we don't have the luxury of chopping and changing and following false narratives down a path that's going to lead us to a centralized group asking for control of USTC. They might pull the same move that Hexagon pulled on us when we paid them $120,000. There's so many pitfalls down a road like this, they become endless. You can keep thinking deeper and deeper and deeper into this kind of stuff, and you keep finding more negatives. There's not a lot of positives to find when the rules and regulations are becoming quite clear. I'll keep you guys up to date on the Genius Stablecoin Act and any changes that are made to it, if it passes through, if it becomes part of the regulatory landscape, as I really do think it's going to be soon. We're seeing a lot of different people launching stable coins, and they're all being developed around this time when they're changing the regulatory landscape. It's quite obvious what we need to do. But guys, stay safe, stay humble, stay away, and as always, I'll catch you in the next one.